What is up, guys? Thank you so much for being here. So today we're talking about my summer carry versus my winter carry and why it's a big advantage to have two setups. Alright, so when we decide we're going to conceal carry, we obviously have to choose a gun, and there's a couple things that go into consideration because obviously you want it to be small enough to where you can conceal it because that's the whole point. You don't want it to print or to show through your clothing. But then you also want to be able to shoot it well, and typically larger guns, since they have a little bit more weight to them, they're going to recoil less, you're going to maybe get a better grip on them, they'll have a longer sight radius and a longer barrel, so they're going to be a little bit more accurate. And so it kind of makes it a little bit tough because you want it to be smaller to conceal well, because if you can't conceal it well, or if it's just not like comfortable enough to conceal well, then you might not like carry it as often. And that's the number one thing we want to do is we don't want to get a gun that we make excuses to not carry, because you know, if you're making the decision to carry, it's because you care about your family, you care about your life and those around you. And so if you have a gun that keeps you from consistently carrying, then that obviously defeats the purpose, and we want to fix that. And so obviously there's an advantage to the smaller gun and to the larger gun. And so that's why I think that it's just best to have two setups if you can. And I'll show you what they are in a second. I just want to mention that both of these are clear, and so if you see me waving them around or whatever, I can't help it. I just tend to talk with my hands a little bit, but they're both clear, so don't freak out or freak out. It's up to you. Now, I'm not a big fan of winter, but obviously I do get excited to be able to carry a larger gun comfortably and without worrying about people seeing it, because you're typically wearing at least a hoodie, sometimes even like multiple layers with a hoodie and a jacket and all that. So you can carry a larger gun comfortably, easy, without having to like stress about people possibly seeing it, versus obviously in the summer, you're wearing just a t-shirt, at least in most cases. And so you want to go as slim as possible. And even though there's some really small subcompact handguns that are super slim and easy to conceal that have probably just as many rounds as this guy, because this guy carries 15 rounds. But again, there's a lot more advantages to carrying a larger gun than just having more rounds. The fact that, again, longer barrel, longer sight radius, better grip, all that's gonna make you more accurate, also less recoil. So pretty much 10 times out of 10, even though I love this gun, I would rather shoot this one because I'm just better with it. All right, well, I wanna keep this video fairly short, so I'm just gonna get to showing you my actual setups and how I carry them. And I think I got my point across as to why it's so good to have two different setups, because each gun can just be so much more advantageous in each season. And so I don't want to have to like pick between the two. I'd rather be able to pick the one that suits that season or situation best. All right, so for my summer carry, I just carry a Shield Plus, and I have a full video on my channel of my everyday carry that shows this gun. But basically I had the original Shield for a long time, and I didn't like the trigger on it, and so I ended up putting an Apex trigger in it. But then this Shield Plus came out, which is basically the exact same gun, but it carries significantly more rounds. The other one, I believe, carried 7 rounds, and then it came with an 8-round magazine as well. And this carries 10 rounds and comes with a 12-round magazine. It actually comes with a 13-round magazine, but I don't typically carry it because it sticks out a little more and I prefer the flush-fitting mag. But it's still nice if you are going to carry an extra magazine to be able to have that one, or just for the range. The only custom thing I have on here, or upgrade I guess you could say, is the Trijicon night sights. And I just like them because, for one, they glow in the dark because it has tritium inserts in the iron sights. Now, at the same time, like if it's gonna be that dark to where you can't see your iron sights unless they're glowing, then you probably shouldn't be shooting at anybody because you probably can't identify who they are. But the reason I like having them is because, for one, if this is sitting on my nightstand, because typically during the summer, whatever gun, if I'm carrying this during the summer, I'm gonna also have it by my bed. And then in the winter, I carry the other gun and have that one by my bed. But anyways, so this just allows me to see it quicker, because if I had to wake up for some reason in the middle of the night, I can just turn and I can see the dots even if the room is completely dark. I can just grab it real quick, but then also having that bright orange dot on the front, that also is just really nice for shooting in general. So even if these didn't glow, I would still like these iron sights because of the fact that the back doesn't really have any paint and the front has that bright orange, so it's really easy for that to just like catch your eye. But otherwise, I didn't need to upgrade the trigger on this because it has a new style trigger and I just like it more, and everything else just seems good. And then I'm carrying it in a Tier 1 concealed holster, which is what I'm carrying my other one in. This one's pretty cool. It's like a multicam color, so I like it. My winter setup is in the same type of holster, except in an OD green color, which I like. And then it looks a little bit different because this originally was just a plain black MMP 2.0. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically the same size as a Glock 19. So it's not a full-size handgun, but definitely not like one of those small subcompact ones. But it's still small enough to carry and large enough to shoot very comfortably. So this is probably my favorite one. But the reason this isn't black anymore, and that's the only upgrade I've done, everything else is stock, but I originally paid this local shop a good amount of money to basically make this. I wanted the frame to be this dark brown color and the top to be like this tan multicam. So kind of hard to describe, but what I showed them a picture of was a really cool gun that I saw online, but what they gave me just turned out ugly. It just was terrible looking. It just didn't look anything like the picture that I showed them. So I just said, forget it, I'm just gonna redo the slide. I like the frame, the dark brown, but what I did is I was sanding down all the Cerakote from the slide with sandpaper and stuff, and I was able to get most of it off, but then there were still little bits in the slide cuts right here, and there was still a little bit like just throughout the gun. And I looked at it and I really liked how it looked because it just looked like a worn, almost like a Mad Max worn down gun, even though it's not. I mean, this thing's in great condition, but it gave it that cool like worn steel look. So I was like, well, I like this and I'm just gonna keep it, but obviously I don't want the gun to rust because in the past, like on my old Shield, it had the coating that it came with, and just from so many years of carrying it, it rusted through the coating. And so I knew for sure this one was gonna rust if I didn't do something about it, and I just left it stainless steel with tiny bits of worn paint on there. And so what I did is I bought a clear coat can from, I think, Brownells, and it's meant for coating your slides and stuff. And so I just coated it with that, and now it looks really cool. By the way, if you're not familiar with the MMP 2.0s and like how ridiculously reliable they are, these things are just famous for being so reliable. One of the videos that like really points that out is Grantham. He's another gun YouTuber. If you look up his channel and look up his video where he freezes a bunch of handguns, and anyways, it's just incredible to see how so many very popular handguns that are supposed to be ultra reliable. I mean, obviously it was like a over the top like test that they did. It's not necessarily realistic unless you are just in a crazy cold situation like that. But to see how this performed was really impressive. I already owned the gun even before I ever saw that video. But yeah, and there's other videos out there as well. And so if you're ever wanting to get a really reliable handgun, you cannot go wrong with the MMP 2.0. And they've got newer models too. They've got ones that have slide cuts for like red dots and just different things like that. So I would definitely check them out. I moved my chair because I want to show you guys a tip. For one, you want to have a good belt. A good belt that doesn't have any flop to it. So whether it's a thick leather belt or a belt that's meant for concealed carry, which I'll put some links in the description down below. So one tip to make it a little bit more comfortable for you when you're concealed carrying, especially in the winter because that's when you're wearing more layers, is I tuck my underlayer underneath the gun, because nobody's gonna see this anyways because you're normally wearing a hoodie or a jacket, and so tuck whatever layer you have underneath under the gun. That way, if your like texture on your grip is a little bit rough, or even if it's not, it's just more comfortable to have it like tucked under the gun. And then that way, if for some reason, you know, you're going in and out of buildings and you get a little sweaty, you won't sweat on the gun either. but mostly it just makes it more comfortable, and you can carry pretty much anything in the winter if you're big enough. I'm personally not that big, so this is as big as I like to go. So you can completely tuck in your shirt if you want, but I just prefer to tuck in the front behind the holster. That's just what I prefer, but if you want to just tuck in your whole shirt, that works too. And it also makes it a little bit safer because that way there's less layers in the way or for you to pull out of the way if you had to draw your handgun. So that's another reason, is for comfort, but also just for like safety and for easy access if you ever had to draw. And speaking of that, hopefully you never have to. I think 99% of people, if not all of us who conceal carry, we don't ever want to have to like draw the gun. It's really just one of those things like insurance, right? You don't want to have to use the insurance because you don't want to get into like a car accident. But if for some reason that happened, then you're happy you have it. So it's one of those things. Hopefully you'll carry your whole life and you'll never ever have to draw it. But if you do, we just want to be set up to where we're, in the best situation to have an advantage to protect, those around us. With all that being said, I just want to thank you guys so much again for watching till the end. It really helps out my channel. And don't forget about the like button, because that helps out a lot too. And it literally just takes like 1 second to just click on it real quick. And if you like this kind of content, like anything that's to do with guns, gun reviews, I've done backpack reviews, definitely subscribe and check out the other videos on my channel. And thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.